What's going on, guys? It's Wednesday night again, and here we are, Squadron Live. And I appreciate everybody being here. Hope that you've had a really good week. I have had a really good week, a very busy week, but good nonetheless. Happy to be here with you guys. It's like I've always said recently. I look forward to this, and with moving and trying to get packed and everything done that needs to be done, all while trying to keep Squadron going like it needs to. This is a nice change of pace for a minute to come upstairs and sit down and hang out with you guys for an hour. So I appreciate you being here, and I hope we have a good time tonight. Let me jump over here in the chat and say hello to who's with us tonight. Jason is with us. You missed last week. Yeah, we missed you, but glad that you were here tonight. Good to see you. And Joseph is here. And looks like you got your P47 last week, and they're doing a really good job, not just with what's inside the box, but like you're talking about the box art here, what's on the outside of the box. It's just really, really nice, and that counts in my book. Let's see. Danny is here. Good to see you tonight. Coming to us from North Carolina, not too far away. And you're going to put in your vote for 20 truckloads to get moved. And that's probably a pretty good guess. I don't know. We have not taken anything else to the warehouse, to the new warehouse, since last week. I told you that we had taken a few loads over there last week, but nothing this week. I've been focusing on getting my personal stuff moved to my new house this week, and trying to get out of this house, selling this house, buying a new one. There's a window of having stuff in two places, and trying to make that as short of a window as possible, but just a lot of stuff to do. But 20 loads, good guess. We'll see how close you are. The lawn care novice is here tonight. Good to see you. Let's see. Nick is with us tonight from Illinois. You're guessing 27. You know, I hope that Danny is right at 20 as opposed to your 27. You might be right, but man, it's just the more stuff that has to move, the more work it is on us. So you may very well be right. I hope you're wrong, but you might be right. Or it might be more. Who knows? We'll find out soon. Greg, nice to see you tonight. Glad you came to join me. Okay. Good to see you here tonight, buddy. Oh, look at that. Jason's going to guess 30 truckloads. Whew, I hope not. But maybe. We'll see. As far as the official guess goes, it's going to be a little while from now, obviously. But you guys keep guessing and figuring out what you're going to guess, and we'll get those official votes in at some point when we get a little bit closer to that. Ed Groon with us tonight. Good to see you, buddy. And Rex is here with us again. Good to see you. And Wes from Central Florida. Good to see you. Glad you guys got some rain down that way. Last Wednesday, we were having some rain here, and I think it was Lee Bold was here with us last week talking about he was watching out for tornadoes. And during this show last Wednesday night, I found out that we were under tornado watch as well here in LJ. And about an hour after this show ended, or a couple hours maybe, the tornado watch in LJ turned into a tornado warning, and we had one touchdown. I don't know exactly where, but a few miles from my house, and we were listening to the weather. We have one of those weather scanner things. Listening to that, and they specifically mentioned White Path and Northcutt, which is the road and the neighborhood that I live near and by. And when they said that, I said, you know, that's pretty specific. So we got down in the basement and hung out down there for a while. Thankfully, nothing came to our house, but there was quite a bit of damage in our town, and I think we even made the Atlanta news. Woo-hoo. but I think everybody was okay. I don't think anybody was hurt in our town. I hope that's the case in everybody else's town. But let's see. No storms tonight though, so we're good to have a good time tonight. Lance, good to see you tonight, buddy. And TD, good to see you. And yes, hello to the group. And the move is going well. Thank you for asking or commenting, I should say. Mike V just joined us. Hey, buddy. Good to see you, and glad you're here with us. Michael here from Iowa. Raining there today. Well, hopefully no tornadoes coming your way. That was kind of the story last week. Jeff J's with us. Good to see you tonight. And Jim. And Rusty's here. Hello, Rusty. And Tom coming to us again from the villages of the White Sands. Good to see you, buddy. And Johnny's with us tonight, coming to us from Canada. Good to see you, buddy. Howdy to you too, Mark. And John is with us. Good to see you this evening. Frank from Pennsylvania. Glad that you're here with us again. And TJ, of course, out in Fort Worth. Good to see you. I think I got some duplicate messages coming in here. Carlos is with us. Good to see you. And Charles and Jeremiah was a bullfrog. And Jim's going to split the difference and say 23 truckloads. There you go. And Kenny Wade and Roy Witt coming to us from Facebook. And Roy's got a 22 truckload guess. We're going to have every single number. Somebody is going to be right. Or at least you would assume so, right? Oh, man. Hey, Greg. Oh, okay. You beat me to the show. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see. Michael, you moved recently. Yeah. That's, or 4 years ago you moved. Oh, man. Most of the models you have are in a storage unit. Well, I'm hoping when I get moved, I get mine out of storage. At least that's the plan. Jason, you have a new color that you hate airbrushing. Orange. All right. Well, good luck with continuing to figure out how you're going to do orange. I am not very fond of orange myself, but I do like airbrushing orange better than I do yellow. Yellow is about the worst. I can't stand doing yellow, but yeah, I know what you mean about the orange for sure. Sky Shark, any update on the new 35th scale M51A2? I don't know. I know that it's been released in, AFV clubs in Taiwan, so it takes a while for it to trickle over here to us. But I don't know exactly when I'll be getting them. It could be and should be very soon, but I don't have any official timing on that. And that's why it's not up for pre-order on my website. Sometimes some of these brands and some of these manufacturers, if there's something new coming out and I don't have it up for pre-order, it's probably because I don't really have a good idea of when it's coming or sometimes what the price will be. But we'll get that listed as soon as possible because it is going to be a really cool kit for sure. Ed, yeah, you're talking about your dog getting scared of thunderstorms. That's like my dad's dog. It does not do well when the weather gets bad, so I can certainly understand what you're saying there. Let's see, what's up to you too, James? Good to see you tonight, buddy. And Stuart's here. And let's see. And Tom and Jason, you guys are going to go back and forth and figure out how to get this X1 painted, aren't you? Good deal. That's what it's all about. Giving each other ideas and tricks on painting. And that's how we get better, right? Odgen and Tunkline. Hey, I am glad to hear that you like the website. Once you get used to how it works, I kind of like it, but I'm a little partial to it, I guess. I'm glad you got it figured out. It's pretty neat, and we've got a lot of more cool updates and features coming to it. All the filters on the left, after we get moved and settled in, I've got a lot of updates to that to get that more accurate, first of all, so when you clip ships, you don't get airplanes, and when you clip airplanes, you don't get tanks. There's some of that, but I've got some other, I want to expand the options too, like right now you can choose model kits, or you can choose what scale you want to look at. But I want to get really in depth and be able to choose, like, I want to see American subjects or German subjects or Japanese subjects. So I got a lot of cool ideas, and we just, that's what we do. We keep making it better, so we'll continue to do that for sure. All right, so I got a few things we want to get into tonight. First of all, I've got to take some water, and I was hoping our Miami Dolphins fan, would be in here tonight, because, like I told you, my son is a Dolphins fan because his grandfather was, and I guess by extension I am, and my son has gotten me a nice Dolphins glass. So that's how I'm having my water tonight. So maybe he'll be in here and join us later, and I'll show it to him. But anyway, so last week at the show, we were still waiting on our Edward shipment, and it finally showed up. We got all of the P-51s shipped out to the pre-orders, and they were all pre-orders because they were all spoken for before they got here. But one of those customers that bought one was me. So I've got my Royal class here with me tonight. This is what these look like. Kind of, Edward's always done this type of box art for their Royal class. And basically the Royal class kits, if you don't know, are kind of like a all-included, all-in-one super kit, if you will. Because not only does it have, you get the plastic parts, of course, and this is a P-51B. You get all the plastic sprues, clear parts, but you also get some of the Edward upgrade stuff, like their Resin set is included, and this has got your brass parts, your resin parts, whatever. You get sometimes, and usually, you get a very cool little coin or pin, challenge coin, I think maybe they're called, with them. Little medallions, whatever. Those are cool. And let's see. Of course, very nice instruction sheet. Edward always goes over the top with their instructions. But you get masking set, which for an aircraft is kind of important, or at least helpful. And then the Edward 3D printed decals, if you've seen their instrument panels and that kind of thing. They call it the Space series, and you probably can't see, but that's embossed, raised, whatever. It's a 3D printed, pre-colored instrument panel, but it's on a decal sheet, so it comes off with water just like a decal. So you get those in there. Of course, you get some photo etch. You can't have an Edward superset without some Edward photo etch. And then all sorts of decals with this particular kit. So it's just a really nice kit. Now, it also comes with a poster of the box art, and if you saw the box art, you're like, why would you want a poster of that? They also came out at the same time with a P-51B dual combo kit, which in Edward lingo means you get two P-51s in the box, and they called that the Operation Overlord box. So in other words, a D-Day set. And so the box art for that was very cool, done by our buddy Peter. And so in this box, because it's the same kit, this is just got all the fancy stuff with it, you get a poster of that Operation Overlord box art. And this is really nice, something that would certainly look awesome framed and hung up in your model room. So you get that with this Royal class kit. So if you saw the Overlord boxing and you're like, man, I really like that, but I want all the goodies with the Royal class, and that's the way you went, fear not. You get a nice poster of that box art, so you get to enjoy that also. So that's the good part. The bad part is they are sold out, gone, and discontinued. The Edward Royal class series, they do that. They do a short production run, and once they're gone, they're gone. Now, if you are not into 48 scale and you want to do a 72 scale, we currently have the 72 scale version of this exact same thing up on our website for pre-order. You can see that here on the website there. That is the 72 scale version of the Royal class, and this one is a dual combo. So this Royal class, you get the Royal class treatment, and you still get 2 Mustangs in the box. So these are still available. They haven't been released yet. These are due out on their next shipment. But don't wait, because they will most likely be gone, just like this 48 scale version. So that was what came in this week that was pretty exciting. There was a lot of other things that came in this week too, and I've got to apologize. I've been in and out of the shop this week, so if you've tried calling and you weren't able to get me, hopefully my brother Jared took care of you, or somebody else there. Hopefully they took care of you if you're not able to get in touch with me. But we've got, with that Edward shipment, a ton of Edward photo etch came back in stock that we'd been waiting on for a while. So let me think. Oh, I've been talking about a lot of new releases lately that have been on the water for a long time. And the issue, usually it's customs that I'm fussing about or complaining about. It's like, hey, customs has got our shipment. And that certainly happens a lot. But this time, it's not customs. This time, there's a drought at the Panama Canal, and they are like ridiculously backed up at the canal. Our container has been there for over 2 weeks. So just maybe one of these days we'll draw the lucky straw and not have any problems with our shipments. But we've just got a lot of stuff out there that's coming. A lot of cool stuff coming up that that we keep talking about. There is some new ICM stuff that's come out, or that's about to come out. Lots of things that have been released that have kind of been planned to be able to be released at or around nationals, the IPMS nationals. And most of those things, at least for us, it's going to happen. But there will be a few things that may or may not quite make the timing for the show. But, whether you go to the show or not, we'll have them listed up on Squadron and be able to get those to you as quickly as possible. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, I guess. I got a buddy of mine that has been on this show before, and he's a good friend of mine named Chris. You probably remember him, and we were talking earlier, and he hadn't been on here for a while, so I want to bring him on and just see if we can talk about some ship models or something for a few minutes. So let me pull him in here. Hey, Chris, you're muted. You're still muted. Yeah, and he's talking away and doesn't realize he's muted.
No, sorry about that. No.
Oh, there you go. How are you, buddy?
Pretty good. I'm on the work side of my basement that is actually being used tonight, which is surprising.
Yeah? Well, what are you doing? Painting something, I hope?
Yeah, a little nerdy mix. So I've honestly been really impressed with a lot of the paint work we've seen on the ship side.
Yeah.
Some of the weathering and whatnot has really been impressive, especially in the 1-700 side. You have people that tend to overweather or leave things that are pristine, which I really appreciate. But trying to get better with oils and whatnot has been something that, especially that I've taken the sabbatical I have, has been a bit of a mission.
Right. Well, and what I want to do too for everybody that's listening, I don't want Chris and I to just run off on our own tangent. I want to make sure to try to answer these questions that are over here. So let's go back up here to Jason's question about the orange paint, because I saw that you commented on that. Let's talk about orange for a minute. I mean, I know what kind of troubles I have with orange and yellow and red. Do you run into similar situations with these lighter, light pigmented colors? And how do you what do you do when you're working with these kind of colors?
So with figures, it's a little bit different. I'll just show. This is get up to the camera if I can. Like I said, my lighting is not best. This is from a miniatures game called BattleTech.
Okay.
And in this particular case, half of the figure is white. And I think we've all run into any sort of lighter color issues: white, yellow, orange. My joke about orange and blue is a football thing, because I know you're from Georgia, and I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's a matter of your base, right? Like when I'm airbrushing any sort of lighter colors, I mean, I'll white specifically because I don't want it to be really just kind of boring. I'll use a light gray as a primer, or even one thing I've learned that's been kind of fun is you do the darker color primer, right? And you take a makeup brush. This is one I use right here. And I'll just dab it in white paint and dab the actual figure. What that'll allow you to do is it's similar to airbrushing in the sense that you're trying to modulate the colors. But you start, of course, on the brightest side of the figure and you kind of blend it down. And you can build shadows that way. I've done it more successfully with your olive greens.
Right.
You're in my on the finished side of the basement that I could grab, where that was relatively successful. But I found that from a hand painting point of view, when it comes to brushes, I found lighter colors just don't work.
Right.
Unless you really thin them and spend a lot of time doing layer after layer after layer. But you know, the makeup brushes, when I was reading it on one of the forums I was at and watched a video on YouTube, it's like an extreme version of dry brushing.
Yeah.
And it's been really successful.
Okay.
But yeah, airbrushing wise, I saw someone used a pink base for a orange model.
Really?
And then painted the yellow on that, or they also used it for orange. So it was like what is that, like a sand pink or like a shell pink, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, Tamiya has an actual pink primer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's popular for, like if you're doing red, like a red Ferrari. I know people use pink as a base for red, but I've only ever used pink for a base for red or for skin, like skin colors, tan. Never thought about it for orange or yellow or anything like that.
Yeah. It's
something to try, I guess.
And I apologize. We've had rain now for 3 days straight in Virginia.
Everybody's having rain.
It is. My allergies are murdering me.
Yeah. Let me answer this question from Stuart real quick. He's asking about the 350 scale destroyers from Dragon. Stuart, those are on the water, and we are hoping, fingers crossed, to have them here in time before we go to Nationals. All of them but the Buchanan are sold out. So the Gearing and the Laffy, I believe it is, those are sold out. But if they show up, we'll get them shipped before we go to Nationals. But talking about those destroyers, Chris, are those any kits that you've had? I know that you do. I mean, you're my ship buddy, so have you got all those? Have you built any of them?
Yeah, so I currently have 7 different varieties of the Gearing and the Laffy. Buchanan, yeah, I've got a lot. Yeah. So I built the Laffy for a gentleman who unfortunately passed before I could give it to him. He was a survivor from the vessel.
Oh, wow.
Really good kits. Those Dragon destroyers are honestly some of the easiest to build ships I've ever built. You are selling the gold medal photo etch now, correct?
Yes, and we're out right now, but update on that, we finally have all of that stuff back into production with a new manufacturer. You may have heard that the current manufacturer, the owner, had a stroke, which I understand he has made a recovery, and they're soon to get back to work. But, about 3 or 4 months ago, we kind of gave up on that, didn't know if he'd ever get back, and we went another way. So, yes, we will have the gold medal sets for those back very soon.
So for those of the people that have bought those destroyers, the gold medal set for the not the Gearing, what's the other one? The Laffy,
Buchanan. Yeah, I forget which all ones they had. Let me see if I can look it up real quick.
Those are fantastic photo etch sets. Also on free time, you can grab the Black Cat 3D printed guns.
Oh yeah,
I think they have the quads. I think they have the 20s.
Yeah, they've got all of it. It's you can pretty much replace everything on this kit if you choose to do so.
And I mean, not to say those kits don't come with excellent examples of your small guns. I mean, the 5-inch guns themselves are amazing. I think that Dragon really put out the first kits that I can say from a slide molding point of view that were really impressive. But yeah, there's all kinds of stuff on the website I'd suggest getting. Definitely when Brandon releases the gold medal sets again, get them for those destroyers.
Yeah, they make a big difference.
Do you carry the Flyhawk set for the gearings or not?
We do. I don't know if I've got them at the moment, but we do have those. It's been so long since these kits were available. Yeah, I'm out of stock right now. But there it is. It's a nice set.
Yeah,
but now that they're coming back, we'll have to get these again.
Yeah, definitely. Those are amazing sets. I mean, really, honestly, I have that particular photo etch set. I can grab from a box in a second here. If anyone wants to see, that's my embarrassment over there. So yeah, I've got a lot.
See, I'm hoping. So this is the one that they have released now. So I can only assume and really hope that they will do these other versions. They did the 805 and the 742 as well. So you got to figure that they will reissue these versions. So if you missed out on this re-release, but you still want a gearing and you're not really particular on which one, you should have another shot at some point soon. And I'm really hoping Dragon's kind of been on a re-release kick, so to speak, if you will. And I'm hoping after they get all this stuff re-released, it'd be awesome to see some new. Of course, it'd be awesome to see new kits, and we've seen that with their announcement of the Nelson. But it'd be awesome to see some more versions, different gearings, other destroyers, maybe things that they can do utilizing some or all or most of the existing tooling that they've got. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Well, it'd be nice. You have the Scharnhorst, which the instructions are but the kit itself is very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, an Eisenhower would not be difficult. I have the old Resin. I don't remember who manufactured it, but the 16-inch or 15-inch Eisenhower that was the proposed rebuild. I mean, you know me, I love my what ifs.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
You and me both.
And then, I mean, honestly, the Scharnhorst and the Eisenhower are both beautiful vessels.
Oh yeah, well, I'm hoping they'll do that because they've re-released now all 3 versions of the Scharnhorst. So why not do the Eisenhower? I mean, it would definitely make sense. Let me jump in here. Tom, yes, I did get that email from your buddy, and I think I know that guy. A lot of his kits and his picture looks very familiar, so I'm going to show off some of his stuff on June 5th for our next show and tell. Let's see. Let me answer a couple of these questions here real quick, Chris. Jason, the flak baits, they are later this year. The next version is the same B-26 that includes figures, and those are supposed to be here in July. And Joseph, the X Plus shipments, the Beta and Blue Velociraptors, the Marilyn Monroe, and the Rhedosaurus will be here in July. And I believe Mummy and Red Sonja are the ones that are going to be released after that. Excuse me, Dracula between those. But yeah, a lot of that stuff coming out. So, and Ronnie loves when we talk about ship models. That category doesn't get enough attention. Well, you're in luck because that's probably what we're mostly going to talk about tonight. Oh man, let's see. Yeah, Ed knows all about that. Michael, that C-Lab. So this is something interesting, Chris. Do you know anything about the old C-Lab model kit?
I'm aware of it.
So, Doll and Hobby has decided to not re-release this because that would be literally impossible because the tooling is gone. But they instead have created an all-new tooling of this thing, and he actually got his test shots today. He called me and told me he got his test shots. It'll be released sometime this year. So this is a little bit different, but a lot of people are looking forward to this. So it'll be exciting to see this. I guess we can kind of sort of still call it a ship model, I guess. But it'll be interesting.
So here's a question.
All right.
So you and I have had this discussion in person. to the crowd in general. So, who prefers resin and who prefers styrene chips? I mean, the offerings in resin are, of course, far more diverse, but it's a slightly different skill set. So, I'm really curious because you have, Corsair, Combrig, Black Cat that makes a couple excellent kits now. What people actually prefer?
All right, there you go. So everybody, let us know in the chat if you had your choice of buying the exact same model in plastic or resin, and the price was exactly the same.
Good luck.
Which would you pick? Plastic or resin? Price is not a object right now.
It's kind of hard to see this, but I have both the there we go. Thank you, Brandon. The Combrig and the Flyhawk.
What is that? The Iron Duke?
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, that was not good. Of course, I've got this little guy too.
Which one is it? Oh, the Artist Hobby set. Oh wow! From this view, yeah, we can see your big stash over there.
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, looks nice.
And that's my hot water heater and all my tools.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, so we've got a few answers rolling in now, and back up here, Ed, Black Cat, all that stuff will be coming back in stock sometime in the next few weeks. Ben is back from his vacation, and he is hard at work getting things printed for us. So hopefully it won't be too long.
Brendan, do you mind me answering the question about Model Monkey or not?
No, please do. Where's it at? So I can. Who said it?
Jason Campbell.
Jason Campbell. Give me a second. I'll throw it up on the screen. This one?
Yes. So
okay, cool.
The guy who does Model Monkey is a good dude. He does a lot of really good research. It's your typical gray resin plastic. I'm not sure what the resolution is, but I mean, especially for our scales that we work with, I don't see a whole lot of issues with your layer line. So I have his Titanic funnels. And I also have the Arizona superstructure that he designed for the Venerable Dragon kit. Because honestly, the Dragon kit's good, but it does have some major issues with the Ford superstructure. So, I mean, he has my full endorsement. I know he's also got a partnership with a Chinese resin maker that I'm not sure if they're doing other work with in the States. But, yeah, I mean, he's a good dude.
Oh, yeah. And I second that. I know him, and we don't talk often, but every once in a while we send emails back and forth and talk about things. I would love to work with him. He would love to work with us. But the way his stuff is priced to get it shipped over here, it just, it just doesn't lend itself to where, it would work out for us, at least not now. But he does a lot of good convert. I mean, all of his stuff he makes is nice, but I mean, you can get 20s and 40s. You can get all that stuff anywhere. Not that his are not good, but really to me, his forte, if you will, are all of his conversions, because he does, like Jason's asking, he does conversions. I know he's working on a conversion set for the new 350 Midway right now. So you can take that kit, you can convert it to the Korean version or whichever ones he's doing. I don't know. He's doing several, I think. But that's really kind of his, his forte, if you will. At least from what every time I look at his stuff, it's really neat things. So.
I also,
all right. Well, let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a question by Ed G about mentioning about iron shipwrights. I'll be on record saying in the past I've been critical of a lot of the work coming out of iron shipwrights, but I'm going to say this right now. I have a couple of the newer kits, and what he's doing with 3D modeling, especially on the cage masts and some of the superstructure, and I've been really impressed. I bought a USS Utah, and you could tell that it was cast properly, that all the parts were there. I mean, Iron Shipwrights has taken a real launch into the future with their kits. I know, Brandon, you carry them too.
Oh yeah, they are currently hidden on our website during our move transition, because the way we sell Iron Shipwrights kits, we don't actually stock them here because they're right up the road from us, and everything that he makes is cast or printed to order. So whenever that's literally the only thing on our website that's not in our warehouse. So when you order it, I tell John, he casts it up, we ship it, or he ships it out for us in a couple of days. But right now during our move transition, we don't want to drop the ball or lose anything, so they're not on the site. But I'll tell you that So John Warnicki is the guy that makes the Iron Shipwright stuff, and he's up in Tennessee. He had a partner, Ted Sparrow. Ted unfortunately passed away a year or two ago, but Ted did certain parts of the casting. John did other parts, and they both, had their part, so to speak. When Ted passed, that left John holding the bag, if you will, and now John has to do everything. Well, all of the small parts that Ted was making, I guess, John took it upon himself to go ahead and figure out, hey, right now would probably be a good opportunity to go ahead and learn the 3D printing. And Ted, Russ is over here correcting me. Ted Paris, I apologize, not Ted Sparrow. Ted Paris was the other half of Iron Shipwrights. And anyway, so when that happened, John at that point started upgrading and turning all of the small parts into 3D parts. So now when you get an Iron Shipwrights kit, and I don't know if all of them are done yet. I'm sure he's working to get them all done. The hull, the big superstructure parts, they're all still traditional casting, but all the small stuff is 3D print now, straight off the 3D print, and it's really nice stuff. So they're going through a transition of making all those updates. So it's it's good stuff, and they've got a lot of really interesting subjects for sure.
Sorry, one of our fellowship modelers sent me a message over social media that he saw me on here and made me laugh.
Oh. So. Yeah. Now, have you built any Iron Shipwrights kits?
Yeah, so I'm working on Edmund Fitzgerald right now. It's just 700 scale.
Oh, nice.
I don't know really why. Of course, I think I'm every middle-aged man who's heard the Lightfoot song one too many times. And it's one that my wife will actually let me display in the house because she likes anything commercial. I do have a Queen Mary right now. I've got some aftermarket stuff that's coming from overseas that I want to start working on. I got that from Model Warships guy Martin Quinn.
Okay. Yep.
So I built the Combra kit in 700 scale, but I found some additional research on her Jetlink configuration that I'd like to reflect in the scale. And I do have the 1921 Arizona.
Nice.
It was, I think, Tom's originally, but he transferred over to Shipwrights, and I'm hoping to get the 3D model, 3D part superstructures off of it because, I mean, the hull casting is dated, to put it mildly. I think it's 30 or 40 years old.
Well, you know that when that was originally done by Tom, it was, if I'm not, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was originally done as a rotocasted hollow hull.
I did not.
Yep, and I think he had a couple of kits that were that way, but that particular one, it's kind of crazy. I don't think anybody's doing rotocast hulls these days, at least not in that size.
It's a fascinating subject because you don't really see a lot of USN subjects from kind of your interwar period, which is unfortunate. Right. And I mean, I think most of my friends and I've got a thing for cage mass too, so.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of the early battleships in 350th scale that you don't find them in plastic. And now with his kits coming with all the 3D parts, those Cage Master 3D printed, and they're pretty cool.
Well, and I always appreciated the photo etch size for just the photo etch offerings for how fine they were. Right. But you don't have the right shape, and they're just like weird looking cones.
No. When you put the photo etch ones next to a 3D printed one, it's night and day. Oh yeah. Now, I'll tell you this. This is a ship that I'm going to brag on you for a minute about. So, hey, it's cool to me. What about your 350th Indianapolis that ended up in that movie?
What movie are you talking about, Brandon? I don't know what movie you're talking about.
I don't know. It might have had a certain Nicolas Cage playing in it.
No. We don't talk about that movie in public.
Well, regardless of if you like the movie or not, the fact is, you were the one that got to build the ship model that was on display in the courtroom there, and I just think that's cool.
It is. You heard what they did to the Catalina, didn't you?
Go ahead. I don't know.
All right. So anyone here who enjoys warbirds or otherwise appreciates history, you might want to cover your ears.
Oh boy.
So.
And we're talking about in the movie, right?
Yeah, in the movie. We're talking about the real, legitimate Catalina, the flyable warbird Catalina from World War II that they had.
That they used in the movie.
Correct.
Oh,
so they forgot to make the aircraft watertight when they landed it on the water. And it was over Mobile Bay. And it sank.
Oh, gosh.
During filming. And almost totaled the aircraft. And this is a almost all original survivor from the Second World War. So, yeah, I was delivering the model because my family lives over in Pensacola. And I was like, oh, it's a Catalina. I said, oh, what the heck's happening? And then you start seeing it do this and sink. And I wasn't sure if I should laugh or cry or something in between.
You know, a lot of these war movies, of course, a lot of it is CGI and AI and whatever else these days. But they do still use like that. They try to use original aircraft or tanks or they don't probably have as much option to use ships, but they use real stuff when they can. And just makes you wonder when you hear stories like that, how many times do they screw things up and mess things up that are just not replaceable? I mean, if that had sunk, they can pull things up, but if they had destroyed that, that's not something that you can just go down the street and buy another one.
So it's funny you mentioned that. I don't know if you can share your screen if I give you something to put on your social media account.
Sure.
But somebody, I'm going to send it to you on Facebook, built a model of the prop from Tora Tora Tora.
Okay.
And put it on IPMS. Now, I'm not sure the actual builder is. I don't know if it's actually credited. I think it's actually a Japanese builder. But in the sense of a brilliant model, I just sent it to you on Facebook. If you could share that, if we're talking about like filmmaking, it's incredible. So, Jen, to be clear, they did recover the Catalina and were able to restore it. It's one of those things. Like I think it was there was that one warbird that was buzzing over I think Galveston and crashed, and they were able to recover it. But it was something to behold in person. But yeah, so this is the Akagi from the Tora 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 movie. This is a model based on a photograph when they were filming the scene, which the planes are oddly backwards, of the aircraft actually taking off, and it is one of the coolest models I have ever seen. So they built this, and they built the Nagato, where one side of the battleship that, of course, was being filmed looked completely legit, and the backside was nothing but scaffolding. But getting into the practical effects, I mean, they filmed entire scenes on a 1/1 scale model of the Akagi.
Wow.
So that's filmmaking.
Huh.
Yeah, Chris, that's a good question. I was like, I don't know why that's the case, but that the photograph that they based it on, that's exactly what it looked like.
Let's see. I'm trying to make sure we're not missing anybody's questions here. Mike, I'm coming to Madison, Wisconsin for the IPMS Nationals. What about you, Chris? Aren't you going to be there?
What day is it?
July 17th, I think.
I'm going to be fishing in Alaska.
All right. Well, we'll get to see a lot more models than you will. But hopefully you'll get to see some big fish.
Sockeye salmon, man, with my boss.
I hear you. Well, that'll be fun. But yeah, Mike, I'll be there. So look forward to seeing you. Let's see. Yeah, Chris noticed the planes were backwards too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to find a picture. I got so many pictures that are unorganized. Going back to Iron Shipwrights, I've built one Iron Shipwrights kit, and it was the 192 scale. It was a destroyer, maybe the Johnston, maybe. I can't remember. It was some destroyer, and it was all right. You know, and talking about 350th scale resin kits, there wasn't ever really that many different manufacturers making a lot of those. Iron Shipwrights, of course, being one that you can still get now. But you remember Yankee Model Works. They had, you had a lot of good options there for a long time. But I guess, you talking about that Tom's Model Works, Arizona, that ended up at Iron Shipwrights. A lot of those early brands like Tom's Model Works, let's see, there was Gulfstream, Classic Warships. You had all these different brands that ended up either at Iron Shipwrights or at Yankee Model Works. And then Yankee Model Works, we ended up buying that, and it became Blue Ridge Models, and we pretty much don't do anything anymore. Maybe that'll change one day soon. But then outside of that, which one is that? Oh, you still have one of those, huh?
Still have one of those.
That's cool.
Ow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But you don't have in 350th scale, you just don't get as many guys that jump out and make these things because a lot of the kits, or I would say most of the kits that Yankee Model Works produced, and many of them that Iron Shipwrights has produced, they've come out in plastic. And, if you scroll back up through the chat, when I asked the question, do you prefer plastic or resin? I don't think I saw a single vote for resin.
There were a couple.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, there's one. Barry says resin. But, plastic, 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 plastic all the way, plastic, plastic. So this being the case, once a plastic kit is on the market, the resin kit's dead, for the most part. Yeah, there may be a few guys that prefer that, but for a manufacturer to devote the time, effort, and money into molds and manufacturing and promoting and marketing and blah, 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 it's just not going to happen. So that's why you see a lot of the 350th scale kits that do come out, whether it's from Combrig or whoever, a lot of times it's ships that I have never heard of. It's really obscure things, which that's fine. It gets you looking in the history books, learning about new subjects. But 700 scale, it's kind of a different story because the price spread is not that great. So you take a company like Nico, for example, that's still making lots of 700 scale resin ships. They do just fine. We sell them all the time. Here's the thing that's funny to me, Chris, and maybe you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. We won't buy a resin ship model for $300, but we will buy a plastic ship model for $100 and buy $300 worth of resin accessories and basically replace every single thing on it except the hull and the superstructure.
Sometimes the hull.
That's true. Sometimes the hull. So it's just funny how we think. It's like, I want a plastic kit, but when you get done with it, it's almost a resin kit. Especially, because if you consider the fact that 3D printing, that is resin.
I guess my thing is that you also have kits like Flyhawk, right? Like the Iron Duke that I pulled up. I love my Combrig kit to death. I really do. With the Artist Hobby Photo Etch set, it's incredible. But like the fit and finish on that Flyhawk Iron Duke is really peerless. I mean, I think I got the deluxe version from you, and I don't need anything for it. The guns are perfect. Aside from scratch building masts, it doesn't need anything.
Right.
But I guess it depends. So, like, you have some of the Black Cat kits that come out, like Samuel B. Roberts, that you're never going to see in plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you do, it's not going to be anywhere near the same quality of what Black Cat put out, and nowhere near that price point. You're talking like, let's say that this better than I do. Let's say that a plastic kit manufacturer puts out a Sammy B for $80, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a basic photo etch set. You're going to go to Flyhawk or any other company and spend another $80 for the photo etch, plus the guns, plus everything else. And from a cost benefit, it's not there.
Right. Well, and I'm going to pull these up, talking about, they've got their new 350 scale Ward, the APD 16 version. So $150. If that comes, and let me look at this. Flyhawk is getting into the 350 market with their Ticonderoga. So, and they did a 700 scale ward. So it will not surprise me a bit if we see a 350 scale ward coming from Flyhawk at some point. And I base that on the fact that if they can do a Ticonderoga, they've obviously got tooling machines that big, and ward's not that big. So it'll be interesting to start seeing comparing apples to apples. But you know, for $150 on a destroyer, that's not as big of a spread as, say, a battleship. You know, you're talking about that Montana from Blue Ridge that you had. Those things, the Yankee version, the Blue Ridge version, they were like $500. You can buy a 350 Montana from Verifier, or now you can buy one from Trumpeter very soon for 130, 150 bucks. That's a huge spread difference from a plastic kit to the resin kit. You know, and then you get down to 700 scale and the spread's even smaller. You know, a 700 scale kit nowadays, let's look at it like a Trumpeter battleship. Let's see, 700. You know, you're talking about some of their older ones are still low, but some of their new releases, I remember seeing the what was it, the Scharnhorst or Gneisenau or one of the German something or others. I mean, it was on up there. It was 40, 50 bucks, you know. And so when you can buy a resin kit for 100 bucks, yeah, that's still twice the price percentage wise, but dollar wise, it's, I guess my point is that's why you're still seeing these companies, whether it's Nico or Combrig or AJM models or Black Cat. I don't know if he's got any 700 scale, but you've got a lot. Okay, go ahead. You've got a lot of 700 scale brands still making resin stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting to see, and we'll just have to keep seeing how it goes, I guess. But I don't know. Chris disappeared on us there. I guess he'll be back in a minute.
Kit, sorry.
Oh, there he is.
So I mean, I was grabbing my Samuel B. Roberts from Black Cat. I'm
Okay.
not sure if these are still in stock or not. But if people want to buy one of these kits, I know that you carry them. The Ward is one I want to get, but I mean, this is the type of resolution. This is 3D printed. It was a resin cast with a 3D printed hull. And I don't know how well you can see this with my poor lighting right now. But there is no evidence whatsoever when I look at this of printing lines, unless I get really, really close.
Now, you're holding it, and I don't remember. Are his holes 3D printed, or is he casting his holes?
So
I can't remember.
The prototype is 3D printed.
Right.
And then it's cast. You can see there are 45-degree casting lines. I don't know how well you can see this. I don't think you're going to be able to in my camera, just because the quality is not there now. But you can see some marks. But I mean, what I like to do with any sort of, and I mentioned this in chat, 3D printed hull like this is done really well. Like the hull, there's no marks whatsoever. He sands it before he puts it in there. Is a light bit of sanding and some Mr. Surfacer will fill a lot of those tiny little canyons, and you will never see it. So, I mean, and especially now with like your 8K printers, I mean, in 350 scale, you're not going to see anything.
Right. Yeah, that is true. A little primer goes a long way with little lines.
I mean,
we do still carry that kit, by the way, Chris.
Good.
It's probably out right now, but we got all that stuff coming back in.
But just to let you all know, I mean, the quality of what Black Cat puts out, if you can see this at all, I mean, it's incredible. I would warn anybody who does get 3D printed parts, if you don't have the proper like little sun bath like I have for my 3D printing, but put it outside for 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes the resin will not be entirely cured, and you're going to find if it's mostly cured, you do that, you're going to find it a lot easier to sand, a lot easier to deal with. And it was mentioned earlier, but definitely make sure you aren't handling 3D printed resin parts that haven't completely cured without some form of PPE. And I mean, I'm talking latex gloves, um, some sort of breathing protection, because those are very toxic.
Oh yeah,
But again,
some people are really allergic to it. I know that Richard Harden that Tom's Model Works. They're doing a lot of 3D printed airplanes now, and he said that if he his son is fine with it, but like if any of that touches him, he breaks out like he's
yeah,
really allergic to it. So it can be really fun, but it's nasty stuff too. Hey, and I just learned this trick the other day actually, and I've got to get one. I don't have one. An X-Acto knife that's heated. Have you ever
huh,
used one of those?
no,
The blade, it's got a little heating element in there, and the blade actually gets really hot. It really helps to cut 3D printed parts or supports off of the parts because that stuff is really brittle. So sometimes when you cut them, you can mess your part up. A hot scalpel knife or X-Acto knife
okay.
or whatever they call them, it really helps to cut those. I just learned that trick the other day.
You carry those?
No, not yet. But
You
like I
know what?
said, I just found out that was a thing, or at least a thing that's good for 3D printed parts. So I got to figure out how to carry those for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the figures I print off, I'm just going to show one of these little guys,
Yeah,
my little BattleTech figures. I mean, it's again, my camera is not the best, but I mean, the front side looks good. But if you end up looking at the back side of these guys, and if my camera wasn't garbage, you'll see that there are little pits and canyons. And I mean, what I'll do is, I mean, I'll be real. If it's for just wargaming, I don't really care, right?
right.
It's a set piece. If it's something I'm painting for a show, like having giant holes is not really the best way to show off your painting and building skills. So yeah, anything that I can use to remove very delicate resin would be nice. Like they have little handholds and whatnot that will print, and it's really
Right.
impressive when it prints. But it doesn't take much to break them.
Hmm. Let's see. I'm trying to pull something up real quick that and it's not going to work on this. We'll have to wait. I've got all the Blue Ridge models 3D weapons and accessories and things. I don't have my 3D viewer on this computer, so I'll change that in a future week. And I'll show some of you guys. If you guys have never seen what a 3D part looks like on the screen, I'll pull those up. You can zoom in, spin it all around. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun to look at.
One, it's just because I've been doing a lot of work right now with 3D printing. I have some older kits of the G3s, no N3s. The G3 is what Comberg released, right?
The battleship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have an N3 hull right now that I'm trying to build the superstructure out with. And you'll find to build that really nice line of a superstructure, to build those supports all properly takes trial and error, I think is the nicest way to put it. You know, it amazes me. And I think if you want to pull up a Sky Shark comment about the 3D printer, 3D molds,
Let me see if I can find it.
the very last one.
Oh, okay. I'm not that far down there. There you go.
So the issue is twofold. I have a couple friends that are on the commercial side of 3D printing. It's a question of whether or not the time you put into a design is going to give you return for investment. You know, I have a friend of mine who does a lot of conversion sets for the New Orleans class, for like the Quincy, the Astoria, so on and so forth. For their personal enjoyment, they'll do it and they'll release it for sale. But if it's not something they want to really build,
Right.
I mean, prototyping is Brandon, you probably know this better than I do. I mean, I've done some of my personal stuff, but the number of times that I've tried to 3D print a proper Johnston after piece of a superstructure and ended up with a hull line that looks like this, I mean, it's a pain, and it's a lot
Yeah.
of wasted resin and time.
Well, and this actually is a bigger picture thing because in in traditional resin casting, you might have heard the term garage kits.
Mm-hmm.
And this basically comes from the fact that it's made in your garage a lot of times, your garage, or maybe you have a shop at your house, whatever the case may be. And then then you have the companies that do it for a living, and then fast forward to now, you got 3D printing. The fact is, the raw material cost for these
Mhm.
resin parts. We run into the same thing when we're making our Squadron in action books. The raw price to print a book, the raw price to cast a resin ship, to print a the material cost on a 3D printed little accessory, it's nothing. Like literally. So whenever you see this stuff and you see these 3D printed things or these resin things or these books or whatever it is, what you're paying for is not necessarily the material that is in there. It's the time
Mhm.
and the effort that was exhausted creating this. Sometimes you look at these big resin kits or these plastic kits, that when these guys make these plastic kits, the actual material cost to produce that plastic kit is nothing. Everything we're paying for is the time that these guys put into research and development and design. I mean, when you sit at your computer, and if some of you guys do 3D design, you know what I mean. You don't just sit down and have a ship designed in an hour. It's a lot of work. That's why when you hear these guys that whatever country this happens in, a Chinese knockoff brand or whatever, when all of a sudden you've got these guys that are copying something and selling it for a third or a fourth of the price, and you're like, well, if they can sell it for that, why couldn't you sell the original one? Well, it's because they didn't have all the time, money, and effort put into researching it, developing it, designing it, prototyping it, test fitting it,
Mhm.
all these things. So I think to kind of answer and wrap this up for what Sky Shark was asking, anything is possible. The 350 modern support ships, it's possible. The question is going to be, can you find somebody who is interested enough to create the designs for that? Because if you've got the designs, printing them and casting them is nothing. Uh, but it just comes back to, is there a big enough market? A lot of the times you'll see these things like what Chris was talking about a minute ago. It's they do it because they love it and they
Mhm.
want to do it. They're not going to make money. They don't intend to make money. They just do it because they enjoy doing it. And if you can find a guy like that, that's great. You can have whatever you want. But some of these manufacturers, uh, well, pick Tamiya. Why won't Tamiya do this or why won't Tamiya do that? Well, they've got years of sales history, and they don't think that that's going to sell enough to justify them going to the trouble to pay to do that. Um, every company is different. Talking about Flyhawk and their awesome kits, those are some pretty unique ships that they're doing. And, to some extent, I would say that's a gamble to even produce those in an injection plastic, but they've done really well with them. So every manufacturer is going to be a little different, and if you look at each manufacturer and you really kind of look at what they're making, you can probably kind of guess what their guys are kind of into. Back when we were doing a lot of the Blue Ridge model stuff, I had a lot of the what if and the really wacky things because that's what I was into. Our very first kit release was a 350th Fort Drum. That would never have been a release if it wasn't something I was personally interested in. So
Hey, Brandon,
yeah.
when am I going to get my little crappy Massachusetts battleship again?
Which one?
The little
Oh,
Massachusetts.
oh, oh, oh! It's coming. It's coming. We got to get moved. All that stuff is packed up on a pallet right now. So, yeah, it's coming. So,
I've dove that wreck, so I'm a little partial.
there you go. It'll happen. I can't believe that you didn't get one the first time around. I don't know how I messed that up for you.
Look, you have my wife's number. You can talk to her about what happened. You
Okay.
remember that trip I took to y'all's place?
Yeah, yeah,
Do you remember what trouble I got in that when I went there?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that explains it right there.
All
Yeah.
right.
She was not happy with me.
That's funny. Chris
This
says the
is
heated
mostly your fault, Brandon.
number 11 blade in the candle, the redneck heated blade.
That
That's
works.
funny. Oh, most of that's my fault. Well,
Most of that's your fault.
I'll take the blame. That's
Yeah,
all right.
there's some stuff that came from model shows. Oh, here's a question for the group. You might appreciate. Well, Brandon,
All right.
um, from any sort of crazy vendor stories, does anyone have any crazy vendor stories from model shows?
Oh gosh, I got one that's great.
Go for
Yeah,
it.
if anybody's got any stories, stick them down in the comments. And but Well, do you have a crazy vendor story?
Oh yeah.
Because you brought this up, so you go first.
All right. So Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
There was a guy who had a Yuki Kaze and a North Carolina for sale. The North Carolina was $75. The Yuki Kaze I think was 35. And walked by. The Yuki Kaze had the Infinity set with it. The North Carolina had, I don't know if it was a line drawer, I have to go check, or the Flyhawk. It had blueprints, the Squadron book, um, a bunch of other aftermarket that came with it. I don't
Okay.
remember everything else. Veterans stuff, I believe. And I walked by a couple times, and I finally kind of circled back, and people were leaving, and I had already spent more money than I really care to admit to. And I figured at this point that, my wife had just bought a ton of yard equipment, chimenea, and other stuff. We bought our brand new home up in New Orleans. So I get away with whatever I want to. I'm like, you know what? She just spent, I don't want to admit how much money.
Mm-hmm.
And which I did benefit from, to be completely clear here. But walked over, offered the guy $50. Walked away with the Yuki Kaze with the photo etch set, and a North Carolina that was stocked, like we talked about earlier, with more aftermarket than the kit was worth. So, and I also spent $20 on a
Yeah, that's awesome.
Ponto set, which I told you about.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, see, my story is a little bit different. My story is not something I got. It's something that I saw somebody not get.
Oh no.
And actually, this is not my story. Actually, this was told to me secondhand, but it's like the greatest vendor story I've ever heard. So there used to be a guy that was a vendor that we knew, and he was at a show. I was not there, but he was set up right next to this guy, and this guy was selling some kit. I don't even know what it was, and he wanted $20 for the kit, and this customer came around and said, "Would you take 10?" "No, it's 20." And this guy came every time he did his path around the room. He'd stop and say, "Will you take $10 for that?" And the vendor's answer every time was, "No, it's 20." Well, the guy that I knew that was right next to him, by the end of the day, he got tired of this customer coming by asking for $10. And so the guy came out and picked the kit up and asked the vendor, he says, "You want $20 for this, right?" He said, "Yes, $20. And the customer that was offering him 10 is standing right next to him. So the guy reaches in his pocket, grabs a $20 bill and hands it to him and says, "I'll take the kit." Then he drops the kit on the floor and starts jumping up and down on it and completely destroyed the kit.
Oh God.
And then he walked off. When I was told that story, I was like, yep, I guess if there's ever a kit that I want to buy, I better buy it, because you never know who's going to come buy it out from under you and then destroy it right in front of you.
I got a sweet story for you.
Okay.
So New Orleans show, there was this was some fire truck, like some old classic style fire truck, and the guy had like $50 on the kit. I mean, it was one of those vintage, lots of chrome parts, everything else that, when we were all kids, we'd sit there and drool over, right? And this boy, probably not more than 5 or 6 years old, walks up to this vendor stand and he's like, "How much is the fire truck?" And the guy's, doesn't really know what to say. He's like, "It's $45 or whatever." He's like, "I have $5. Can I have it?" Like this little, we're talking about a tiny little child. And of course, the vendor, his heart melts.
Mm-hmm.
Hands him the kit. This child runs away, and he was so dang happy. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have
That's
never
awesome.
seen, like, a child that happy to model show. And it's, we talk about people in the hobby, in our age demographic getting more and more up there. And when you see a little kid like that, I think about when I was a little boy in Oklahoma, with my neighbor who let me build some fishing trawler kit or something, and how much that's really influenced my desire to build. Like, to be able to pass that on to a kid would have been really cool.
Oh, yeah. It's always awesome seeing the kids at the shows, because it's just not the normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were at the Amps Nationals a few weeks ago, and a kid came up all excited that I had this kit, and he was telling me all about it. I swear he knew more about tanks than I did, and he hadn't been 10. So it was just really, really awesome. So over here, let me wrap this up with Sky Shark. Yeah, I agree with you, Sky Shark. 3D is the future of modeling, and it will get easier, but it still takes takes a file to it has to be designed to be able to buy it. But it'll get easier, and that's what it's going to be, I'm sure. Chris Decker, yeah, he says that a guy bought these models and. Super thick glasses, couldn't hardly see him. Can't imagine how he's ever going to build them. So that's funny. And we had a similar story. Chris Decker's the guy that actually was producing the Yankee Model Works. And back when we first got started, one of the first shows we went to was over in Virginia Beach. And I remember that we had a lot of Chris's kits, the Yankee Model Works stuff in stock, and the 350 scale stuff, big, expensive kits. And we had them all on display, and this guy comes by, and he was like so excited. He had never seen the Yankee kits in person. So he was just grabbing them, the cruisers and the battleships and all these things, and he racked up a pretty good bill. And, of course, I was excited. This was, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago. And we were excited, selling all these big kits, and it was either me, it might have been Dad, that asked him. He said, "So how long is it going to take you to build all these?" Well, we learned right then and there to never ask that question again, because he looked at Dad and says, "Oh, I'm not going to build them. I just want them." and I never quite understood that at the time. Fast forward to now, I completely understand that statement. And if we look right behind where Chris is sitting, I think he understands that statement too. But talking about going back to plastic versus resin, one thing that plastic kits, for the most part, have an advantage over most resin kits, at least they do have pretty boxes.
I don't see the problem.
Well,
it's a pretty black and white picture. I'm lying. It is. It's
you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Well, no, you're exactly right. I can't help it. I have my own. I prefer resin just because, again, I like the diversity of the subject. But
sure.
Yeah, plastic kits are much better supported.
Oh yeah, it's no secret there.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, did you have anything else? I probably need to wrap this on up for the evening, but what else you want to throw at us? Yeah,
I got one story. It's a sad story. It almost involved divorce. A couple years ago, I was driving up from, I was driving up to, I don't remember why we were actually visiting you now, Brandon. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened there. Oh, we were heading to vacation.
Okay.
And Brandon invited me to go to the warehouse. Don't ever take Brandon up on this option. And I had this beautiful young woman with me. And I walked in with this vendor and went to this vendor's wares and into a place that, if you are a model builder, would be the equivalent of heaven. I mean, there's not much else I can say. And this person was a great salesperson because he was aware that I was going to buy whatever I possibly wanted. And I spent a small fortune. And it was wonderful. But, yeah.
Until you got back in the car. And I'll show this, and talking about going to the warehouse, I'll show this, and this will be it for the night. So this room that I'm in tonight, this is my arcade, as a lot of you know, and this might be the last night I stream from here. This weekend I'm moving a lot of the stuff to our new house, but our house is going up on the market, and we had a photographer come out. And he did a really, really cool thing. So this is a virtual tour of our house. So this is the room that I'm actually in right now. So you can walk up and you can kind of see the whole room. And then over here in the corner, of course, this isn't live, but there's my little streaming setup there. So that's where I sit and hang out with you guys on Wednesday nights. This is where my boys come in and they play their computer games up here. But this little tour thing that this guy did, this is like super cool. And some of you have probably seen this, and it's no big deal to you, but this is the first time I've ever had a tour, so to speak, of my house, and I think it's cool. Well, we were talking to the guy that did this today, and we came up with a really, really, really cool idea. Once we get set up over at the new warehouse, he's going to come over to the warehouse and do a virtual tour of our new warehouse. And we're going to figure out a way to link that in with our website so you can actually virtually walk through and shop our warehouse. So what do you think? Should I do that? I mean, I think it's cool. At least you wouldn't have to get in the car with your wife after you spend all that money.
I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this that's PG. Brandon, that's like showing an addict an entire supply of stuff.
Well, so he walked in the warehouse today, and I said, "Here, this warehouse is 7,000 square feet." I said, "We're moving to 20,000 square feet. It's good, but it's going to be the same concept, just way bigger and a lot more stuff." And he walked in, and he's Australian, so he had a funny accent and a funny way of saying it, but he basically said, "That would be awesome. I've never done anything like that." So it's going to be cool. I have no idea what it's going to look like yet, but it's something that we think we want to do, and I think it'll be awesome. So we'll see.
Well, dude, if you can pull anything together like you did with that arcade room, I'm sitting here. I mean, the laser light display to the 80s above your head, the floors. I'm immensely jealous.
It's cool.
It's fantastic, dude.
Oh, yeah, and you got to see I got all the X-Wings. And
I see the X-Wings. Don't you worry about that.
Oh, yeah. No, it's cool. We have a lot of fun up here, and I put some models on display, too. You can't really see them over there. Those are all my figure models, But I mean, this is cool, and I like it, but for the business-wise, doing a warehouse tour like this of the new warehouse, I think it's going to be awesome. So, that carpet. Hey, I know. We'll put that carpet at the new warehouse.
I like the carpet. I think it's cool.
Oh, it's neat. Well, Chris, I appreciate you coming and hanging out tonight with us.
Sure.
I have to get back together soon and check in with you again after you get a few things painted. I actually got the airbrush out tonight and was painting, believe it or not. I finally got the house done. The house is going up for sale, so I had to go back to to my workshop where all of my model kits are and start packing all that stuff up. Well, there was a kit sitting there in progress, and the airbrush, all I had to do was turn it on. So I had to play for a few minutes. So I had to make sure I still remembered how to do it because it's been a while. So
here's a question for you, dude. And I'm sure people in the chat are curious. What's up with your Dora?
Oh, the Dora. It is in a box. Actually, it's in several boxes. But don't worry. As soon as I get moved over to the new place, it's coming out and it's getting back into progress because I can't wait to get that thing done.
I'll make you a deal, dude.
All right.
When you finish the Dora and I finish the Saratoga, we'll hit the Bourbon Trail or something and celebrate the fact we finished our white whale of a kit.
There you go. All right, let's do it. Well, Chris, I appreciate it, buddy. Sure. I will talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us tonight. I have no idea what's in store for the rest of the week, but I'm sure there's lots of new goodies coming out, and I'll try to get an email blast sent out soon and give you an update on everything new that's coming. But I appreciate everybody. I really do, and I hope y'all have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Y'all take it easy. Have a good evening.